Hello, everybody. Welcome to Crafty Chemist. How are you doing? I'm going to share this to the group real quick. Hello, everybody. Welcome to Crafty Chemist. Okay, I shared it to the group. Today we are going to be making 3 cards. I'm calling it one card 3 ways. I'm going to show you 3 different ways that you could make this card. So I hope that you are ready to learn. Drop in the comments what you're doing today. So today I'm going to be using this stamp set, Amber Autumn. It is a cling set, and as you know, Stampin' Up! It has said that they are going to discontinue the cling stamps. So any cling stamps that they have in stock, they will continue to sell them until they're all sold out. And then they're moving totally to the photopolymer stamp, and that is because they are having trouble sourcing the material for the cling stamps. I'm also going to be using, hi Julie, I'm also going to be using the Amber Autumn dies, which I think is a must-have set to go along with the stamp set. I always tell you the ones that I think you need to get the dies with it, and this is one I think you need to get the dies with it. And that is because of this die right here. This leaf, all over leaf front die. So you can see how beautiful this is. And what's really great about this die is that it makes, basically it makes a card without having to do much, right? This really packs a punch, and it, you know, makes a whole card for you without you having to do a lot to it. So I'm going to show you 3 different ways that we can basically use this die. And so the 3 ways that I have done it is, one is ink blending a piece of cardstock and then cutting this out of the ink blended piece of cardstock. This one I turned into a shaker, so a really easy way to do that. And then this one was the most simple, but I'm using this metallic copper paper, and so that really is all you need. You don't need to do much else besides just having this. So from what I understand, Julie, about the cling stamps, the ones that have been released already will be cling and will be the last that they have. Any new ones that they have are all going to be the photopolymer. So I don't know if, like, the next mini catalog, which comes out, I don't know, in January, I think, those ones will all be photopolymer, is my understanding from that. And it's too bad because this stamp, and actually the one that I just used, that I'm going to use in a couple weeks, this stamp, the cling stamps make such beautiful images because you can get so detailed, but they're just having trouble sourcing them, I guess. So as far as I know, the ones that are cling that are out, they will continue to support. They will not restock. So if there's something that you want that's cling, like these ones, if you really want this stamp set, get it, because they won't be restocked if it goes out of stock. And there won't be any new ones. So that's my understanding. Hi, Diana. Okay, let's get started because I want to try and do all 3 of these. We'll see time-wise. So I think the first one I'm going to do is this one because it's the easiest. I'm also going to show you how to, I watercolored my leaves. Although I might, just for something different, I might do the pumpkins. So we'll see how that goes. So let's work on this one. And I am using a Very Vanilla sheet. And I'm going to cut it at 5.5. So I'm going to get 2 cards out of this. Okay. And then I'm going to score it at 4.25. I could just fold it in half, but I like to score it so I get a better edge. Okay. Fold it along the score line. Okay, so I've got 1 card base. Now on this card, I did put, I made a card front, so it's not just the vanilla color. So I did use a piece of paper. And I'm using the Gather Together paper. Let me move this. This is, oh geez. Well, it's called the Gathering Together paper. And this is really gorgeous paper. Let me show this to you. And it's because the paper has this gold details on it. So this is the paper that I used for the front of this. Some wood grain, but this one's got paper. This is great for fall, but it would also be great for Christmas, I think. Nice kind of off-white color. Another leaf set that's got the gold. Now these leaves might look very similar, but they are different. Now these 2 are the same because it's the same paper, but this one is different. So you see how the coloring's different. This one's got green and yellow in it, where this one just has the cream. So these are different. This is really pretty. This is really pretty for a card front, and it's got the gold foil. Now this one's another one. It's got the gold foil, but look at the background's different. So you see how these are all different. They're similar, but different. This is a nice plaid. And then the back here has got gold foil. So I think that's all, let me see. That's all of the colors. I don't know that I showed you the back of this one. So I'm going to use this paper. Okay, you could just use regular Cajun Craze if you want to, but I'm going to use this. And I cut this at 4 by 5 1/4 to show a little bit of the white around it. I figured I didn't want this to be too dark, so I wanted some of the white to show. 4 by 5 1/4. Okay, so we've got this and this. Now here comes the showstopper, which is this copper paper. Okay, and this is just absolutely gorgeous. It's called Earthen Toned Metallic. And here we go. This comes with 3 sheets of this Earthen Tone Metallic. And I hope that you can see how gorgeous it is. It was really the combination of this paper and this die that got me onto this set because it's just absolutely gorgeous. Now, one thing about this die is it does not cut the outer border of the image. Okay, so I don't know if you can see, but there's a little bit of a border around it, but that's because I cut my paper at 4 by 5 1/4. This is slightly smaller. So you want to cut the paper the size that you want. Okay, because it's not going to cut around the edge. And it actually took me 3 cards before I realized that. And what really made me realize it was this card, because I just set the die onto my ink blended square, and I was going to, I assumed it was going to cut around it, but then I realized you can kind of see how it's a little bit crooked, and that's because I did not take care into placing it, because I thought it cut around the edges, like a little rim around it, but it does not. So keep that in mind when you cut that. Okay, so let's put this down on the card front. I do almost hate to use this gold embossed side down, but it is what it is. And I kind of cut it with the leaves going this way, but that's okay. Okay, so it's down. Good thing I looked at that because I had it upside down. Now let's cut out, I don't know what I got on this one here. Okay, now let's cut this out. And let me show you what I mean. I'm going to place this down. And when I put this onto the piece, I remember I cut this 4 by 5 1/4. I want to make sure that it's even all the way around, because that's what's going to be left, okay? It's not cutting around this edge here, okay? So be careful when you put it down that it's in the exact spot that you want. Now see, that moved a little bit when I put the... Okay. Okay. Now I'm going to, there are kind of a lot of little pieces, so I am going to use my little foam pad and my little, I don't know what this is called, but to try and get these little pieces out. If you don't have it, you just might have to pinch some of these out, poke them out with a little pokey tool, which I'll probably have to do anyway. Okay. And it's not hard to get out. There are a lot of little pieces. Okay. I'm going to put this little sheet down here so I can capture all these pieces. Okay, now let's make sure these are all punched out. I'll get my pokey tool and just poke out any pieces that are still here. Okay. I know it's got a lot of little pieces, but that's actually what makes it so gorgeous. Now you can, if you want, put this on an adhesive sheet before you run it through the die cutting machine, which I did on one of mine. I did on the one, my shaker card. So I'll show you how that works too. But I think it's worth a little bit extra effort, and I probably could go over with that roller a little bit more, but I wanted to show you in case you don't have one of those. They all come out pretty easy. I did try my precision plate. I don't know if that makes it better, even better than this, but I feel you didn't need a precision plate, but okay, let's see. I got a couple more. Okay, oh, there's one right here. Okay, do you see any more? I think that's it. This little teeny piece there. I think that's all of them. Okay. Yeah, you're right. The magnetic platform would be good. Because the washi tape could gunk up your magnetic or your metallic. Okay. Let's put this to the side. And I think I did pretty good here. And now all we need to do is adhere it onto here. At this point, you could use glue and just glue, little pieces if you want. I'm just going to use my tape runner around the edges, especially. And you can decide how much of the leaves you want to tape down. I did like to have these leaves at least a little bit of adhesive down so that they don't pop up, but I'm not going to put a bunch of adhesive on it. Okay. A couple of these poked back once I put adhesive on there. Okay. And the reason I didn't want to put a lot of adhesive is because I don't want adhesive to be getting through the holes once I put it down here. Okay. And so then I'm just going to put this right on here, and if I cut it properly, it should cover that Cajun Craze perfectly. Okay, so there we go. I can already see this one sticking up a little bit, so I'm going to put a little bit of adhesive, just a little bit right there, just to get that edge down. Okay. So now let's stamp these. And I have some French vanilla here. Okay, here we go. So here's the stamp. Like I said, I think I might do the pumpkins just so we can do something different. What do you think? Let's do the pumpkin. And this is a cling, and it is very, oh, you know what? I need to get my intense black since I'm going to watercolor. Remember, if we're going to use the watercolor pencils, you want to use an ink that can take water and not, you know, smear. Okay. But you can see how nicely that stamps. Okay, let me clean this off. I had to find my thing there. Okay. And then I might cut out my circle before I color this, just in case. Okay, and I used this die. It is a 2.5-inch circle. Let's run this through. Leave room to die cut the image out. I just don't want to mess up the colored image once I color it. So I want to make sure. Okay, there you go. And we'll stamp the sentiment on that in a minute. Okay. So, I am using watercolor pencils. And let's use this orange one. I like to sharpen these first. I have been watercoloring away, so they are a little bit well used. And so I'm gonna kind of go fast, but I do this fast anyway because when you watercolor with these, there's so much room for forgiveness. So first I'm just gonna kind of go over these lines that are at the creases and around the edges. I'll do that here too. The part that would be more highlighted or darker in the real item. But to be truth, if I'm trying to get through all of these, maybe on the next ones I'll just do the card bases and then decorate it later. And then I just go back, and I don't rub as hard, but I also don't try and color it all in totally, because we want some of the colored pencil to not smear, but to, you know, watercolor in. So I want to get different shading, so that's why here I'm just kind of going a little bit lighter. I really pushed on these parts, you know, oops, look, I just broke that. I really pushed on those parts, so much so that I broke my pencil, but to get different, you know, shading, but to make it darker. Plus you also want to get some of that pigment, you know, in there. Okay. Now I don't have my water brushes because I gave them to Megan and Ellie. So I'm just using a bowl of water and a regular paintbrush. But we do have watercolor brushes, and they are back in stock. If you remember, Stampin' Up! Was out of stock of those for a while. They were discontinued because the company that they used stopped making them or something. But now they are back in stock. So and I will drop a link at some point. With those. But now I'm just using my paintbrush. I think Ellie had a kind of a paint by number coloring book, but it was like watercolor. And so they were really easy for her to use instead of a paintbrush. Okay, so here's my pumpkin. You can see by the different shading and that it the pumpkin looks, you know, nice and kind of differently shaded. Wait, I want to get a little bit up in here. And also what I like about watercoloring pencils is that you don't get that, you know, with colored pencils, sometimes you can see the lines. You don't get that with watercolor pencils because the water kind of wipes that away. Okay. I'm going to do the squash. I'm going to go over it lightly and then go over it, the dark areas. I only have one set of the Stampin' Up! Watercolor pencils, so I am using some of the old Close to My Heart ones. Okay. Okay, so let's color this one up a little bit with the water. There we go. Okay. Now let's do the corn. I've got this Sunburst yellow. For the corn. And then this is platinum yellow that I'm going to use for the husks. Okay, and then I'm also going to use this for like these little squigglies, and then some of this, I don't know, to me it's like hay something. Okay. Okay, that's watercolor. I'm just going to do kind of the corn husks a little bit. Smooth those out, and then a little bit of corn. Okay. I'm going to do the stems of the pumpkin this brown. And I think I'm going to do the leaves the same. And then I'll add just a little bit of red for the stem there, for this leaf. Okay, and as you can see, I'm not really being real careful. Because the water will just kind of wipe all those lines in such a way. The water brushes that we sell do make this really nice, and it's like a controlled release of water. And then I take the darkest brown and I'm just going to kind of do the shading part. This is just like a shadows. There you go. I don't think I did those. There we go. Just let me do this shading a little bit. Okay. I'm going to let that dry just real quick, and while I'm doing that, I'm going to stamp. Let's see. I think for these ones, I'm going to put this about here and put this around the edge like that. So I'm going to stamp up here. And maybe I'm going to do the thanks, because this is going to take up a lot. The pumpkin's going to take up a lot of space. So let's just make this one. And I'm going to use Cajun Craze because that's the color of the base. And I'm going to put it right up here. So you should think about that before you stamp. You know, what image are you going to put on here? Like this one, I knew I wanted the leaves to be on the top, so I stamped low down there. Okay. This set has some nice sentiments. Blessed to have you in my life, which is what I used there. Autumn wishes, grateful for you, thanks, and you're simply the best. Okay, now let's cut this out, and then we will be pretty much done with this card. The die set does come with dies to cut these out too. Plus it's got a leaf and the little, I don't know, all I can see is ragweed or something on it. So, okay, let's see how this goes here. Okay, right like that. And I am going to washi tape this down because right now I don't trust myself to do a very good job. Okay. Ooh, I almost knocked over my water. That would have been a nice demonstration of why the water pens are better. You don't have to worry about that. Okay, now let's put this card together. This is still a little bit wet. Okay, that's, actually I might use the mini dots, the mini dimensionals on here. There's a lot of kind of little areas in here. Oh, you know what? I'm putting the mini dots on here, not on here. Well, maybe not on there. We'll have to see. Okay, get these off. Okay, and before I really stick it down, I'm going to I think I'll put it like that. Okay, so I will put a couple of the dots, the dimensionals down here. We're at on the corn. And then maybe a couple here and here. Okay, and then the rest of this I'm going to just put some adhesive so it will stick to here. There we go. And if I didn't like that there was so much blank space there, I might use that I might get this and cut a piece of something out, you know, out of something golden. Let me see. That's just, this may or may not make it look better, but I think this is close to my heart, Sundance. Does it help at all? Okay, I kind of like that. Let's do that. There we go. Okay, so there's card one. I think the next one I'll do is the shaker, because I might only have time to do the one more. This one is just ink blending, but it's the same thing. So we'll try. Let's work on this one. So on this one, I also use the French vanilla card base. Metallic leaf confetti pieces would look nice too. Yeah, that would too. That's a good idea. Okay, I have a piece of pecan pie that I'm going to use. And again, I'm going to cut it 4 by 5 1/4. Let's make sure it's 4. Oh, it's more than 4. There we go. And let's cut this out. You know what? I'm going to put it on the adhesive sheet first. Remember, we sell these adhesive sheets. The number is 152334. And whenever you're cutting something that's pretty delicate, that you don't want to have to, you know, adhere down a lot of pieces, I recommend these. And they're sheets, you can see they're about, I don't know, 6 by 12. Yeah, 6 by 12. And I just cut it 4 by 5 1/4, the same size that I want to make my card front. And I am going to save these because sometimes you might want just a little piece. So I'm going to show you how these work. So I am taking off one piece, and then I'm going to adhere this down like so. So it's double-sided stickiness. So I only did one side so that I could, you know, get it straightened out. And then I'm going to remove the other backing piece. And then there's one more. Okay. Okay, and just going to rub over this real quick. And then you can take this piece off. And my finger's a little bit. I'll try this side here. There we go. Oh wait, I want to run it through first. Wait, yeah, let's run it through first. We don't want it to be sticky. We don't want it to be sticky. Okay, so that's, again, when we put this down, we want to make sure that we're centering it, because that's going to be the outer edge, right? If this doesn't, remember, if this die does not cut its outer edge. So let's get it where we want it, centered best we can, and then I'm just going to tape it down a little bit. Okay. Now, the reason I didn't do this on the other one is because, as you'll see, the adhesive pieces do make it so that some of it's a little bit hard to get out. Let's bring this stuff back in here so we can minimize the mess that I make. First, I'm just going to pop out a couple of these. If you don't pop them out of here, what can happen is when you cut the next one, it does not cut through very well. There we go. And so you want to make sure you don't leave these pieces in there. There's a couple here. Okay. Okay. And I'll do the rest. I think I got it all out, but just in case I do the next one. Okay. That looks pretty good. There's one there. Okay. Let's I had to find my little roller. It's a little more resistant to the roller when you use the adhesive sheets. But I think it's worth it for the shaker card, because then it really adheres down to the, you know, the plastic of the shaker part. So I'm going to push out the big pieces here. Okay. See, this doesn't help quite as much. These ones you really do have to poke out. So, you know, it's up to you. But I like it for something like this. I didn't feel I needed it for the one I just did, the plain one that was the non-shaker. But for the shaker, I wanted to sit down on that plastic film, you know, really well. So just take it slow. Art is worth it, the time that it takes, right? And again, since really you don't need to do much with this card front, because it's, you know, it packs a lot of punch on its own. It's worth the time of this, because you're not doing a lot of stamping, you're not doing, you know, a lot of coloring, not doing a lot of cutting. So punching these out seems like not that big of a deal. And again, it's only kind of taking this time because I have the adhesive sheet on. You saw that the non-adhesive sheet one, it came out really a lot easier. But that's why you want the adhesive sheet, because you want it to stick really nicely to the shaker. Okay. Oh, that's a good idea. Using the veins of the leaves to make a bird's nest. Very good idea. I love thinking outside of the box. And you know, I wonder, I think on the one that I did last time, I might have run it through, not twice, but forwards and backwards, so I guess it is twice, but okay, let's see, we're getting there. Let me know, do you send cards out at Thanksgiving? I just finished my Halloween cards, so now I'm working on Thanksgiving cards, I guess. Although these ones I did thanks. I just put thanks on that one, so. It doesn't have to be Thanksgiving cards, even though I called it that in my little preview. But we want to let our family and friends know that we're thinking about them and we care about them. So I like to send cards for every occasion. Okay, let's see. I would try to take off the backing to see if it rips some of these off, but I don't want it to be sticky on the back when I'm trying to do this. Okay. I know there's a lot of little nooks and crannies, but I mean, really, that's what makes this so special. These leaves, the details on these leaves are just amazing. Now see, that piece had a little metallic on it. I must not have got it off very well from the last run, and that piece didn't come out so easy. Seems like the hardest ones to get out are the leaf veins with the adhesive. Well, I meant to show you how great this is, and I'm afraid that it's going to make people think it's too tedious. But it really is not. I'm just making it this way. You can also use glue, and maybe it's because I am not a very good glue user that I like to avoid using it whenever I can. On things that are small like this, because mine would be gushing out everywhere, believe me. Okay, oh, we're very near, guys. We're almost there. The main thing is getting the pecan pie colored pieces out. Because the white will come off with when I remove the backing. Remember, the backing's still on here. Okay. Was this worth it? Well, let's see. We will see. Depends on if we have to add more adhesive as we go. There we go. Yeah, see, I mean, peeling that back does remove some of these pretty good. Okay, just a couple more, guys. If you're making a single card, you'd use it. Yeah. Like you're right. If I was making 50 of these, I might not do this. But you saw it did, all these rolled off really easy with this when they were the metallic. And we'll see if I do the next one, maybe I'll ink blend and just not make the card, but show you what it looks like when you ink blend. You'll see that those pop right out. But really, I feel like that metallic and this design, it's just, it really blew my mind. It just took my breath away. when I saw it. You know, a lot of times I don't order from the catalog right away when it comes out, or, you know, at least when demonstrators are able to order. I wait a little bit and I see what people make in the demonstrator group, because I find that, you know, I'll look at something and I don't know, I don't maybe love it, and then I see what people make with it and I'm like, oh my gosh, that is so much better than what I was imagining. So this was one of the, once I saw people starting to make these cards with the metallic paper, because it is in the same suite, you know, I knew I had to get this. And you can just get the dies and not the stamp set. I mean, if you think you have enough pumpkins, which was my first inclination. Okay, I think they're all off of there. So let's get this backing off. My first inclination was like, I got pumpkins. I don't need this. But then I saw the die being used, and I was like, oh, I definitely need that die. And then I was like, well, if I'm getting the die that cuts out the pumpkins, I might as well get the pumpkins, right? So that's kind of was my thought process. So, okay. Look, they all came off pretty neatly once I took the backing off. So just see a couple small ones here. These ones are off, but there we go. Okay. I'm going to put that down. Let's make a shaker component. So here's the card base again. On this one, I just used the card front. I did not put another piece of paper down. I wanted it to be light so that you could see my shaker elements, okay? So you can use any kind of hard plastic. A lot of times people save their packaging, you know, that's got like a plastic sheet. I'm just using transparency films. You know, I have a whole bunch of these from being a teacher, but we don't use transparencies anymore. So I just use it for this. Okay, so I'm going to cut this at 4 by 5 1/4, and really I'm going to cut it just inside the 4 and 5 1/4, so none of it sticks out a little bit, but okay. Okay, so I don't know if you can see this, but I am going to try and put, let me see if there's a color I can put this on that makes it easier to see. I don't know. I'm going to put this on, you know, I think I'm going to do it this way. I'm going to put this transparency on here. And hopefully after all of that, it goes on well. Okay, and then, there we go. Okay. And it looks pretty good. Okay, so this is directly on, and this explains why I wanted to use the adhesive sheet, because every little nook and cranny of this is adhered down to the plastic. Okay, whereas this one that I just did, you know, some of these aren't. I mean, it's pretty much down, but right, these are all down. Okay, now I'm going to put it on here, but I want to get the shaker part. You have to pop it up. You can use dimensionals, but you need to make sure whatever you do, you don't leave any gaps. So if you put dimensionals on this, you really need to pack them close together, right? So that you're not leaving any space. Otherwise, your shaker elements can fall through. So here I'm just using some foam tape that I have. And again, going from edge to edge. Oh wait, I'm putting it on the wrong side, guys. Shit. That's not good. Wasn't paying attention. Guys, my mind is elsewhere tonight. I'm sorry. There we go. And I'm ripping it. Oh well. Okay, you got to do it on the plastic side. Okay. So I think it's best to use foam tape. This is 1/8" foam tape, which is probably the best to use with the, if you cut this 4 by 5 1/4, because that's about how much of a border you will have. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to put my shaker elements down on the card base, and then I'm going to top this over it, okay? I've got a couple. I'm going to use, this is a mix from Close to My Heart. It's like a fall mix. I think I'm going to use this. It does have these little balls, which I don't love in here because they're a little bit, not thick, but they do, if you could see in here, it's a little bit taller than the other pieces. So I'm going to do it like this, put some in here, just in the center. And then let me get some of these, more little bit of these kind of Cajun craze sequins. And then there's these leaves. I also have these like gold sequins. Okay, so I'm just going to put that in there. Stay away from the edges so it doesn't get caught up in your foam tape. Okay. Okay, here we go. And then just try to center it as best you can. And I did have the sequins in that in like an even level. Like you don't want it bunched up because then it won't shake. Look at that. Look how gorgeous that is. I mean, truthfully, you could put a sentiment on that and be done. Which, you know, maybe let's do that. I had a set of, well, let's do one more. Let's cut out. Another circle. Ooh. Okay. Okay. Okay, let's do the blessed to have you in my life. Where's my stamp set? Oh, it's over here. And I will put it near the bottom. This one, I did stamp it in, I think, the pecan pie. But I'm going to do this one in Cajun Craze because I felt like this was a little bit light. Okay, that's pretty good. Okay. And then let's stamp the leaves, because this one was a little bit easier to color in. And just so I can show you how to do the leaves. And then we'll be done. The ink blended one, you can see, I mean, it's the same. We've done ink blending before, but there's no new technique besides the ink blending in that. Okay, and again, use a black that you can color. And these cling stamps are so nice in their details. I mean, look how detailed that is. It's so beautiful. Let it dry 1 second so I can color on it. The ink's a little bit wet. Not too bad, but I don't like to color right away. Okay. Now, so what I did with these ones is, just to get this look, I kind of started with the green in the center because I feel like the leaves start to change on the edges. So I did the centers in green, and you can decide how much you want this to be fall, how much you want to just be, you know, turning colors. So I kind of just did the centers as the green and a little bit on the bottom here. Okay, and then I did the orange around it. And I left the edges, the very edges, I'm using more of the redder orange. Okay. Okay, and then on the very outside, I'm using this, it's called Tawny. So it's a little more russet color, just on the edges. Now you can really look at how these leaves change. These are oak leaves, and oak leaves do tend to be a little more yellow when they color. So it depends on how realistic you want to be. I like the looks, the more fall look, which may not be as authentic as, you know, as these leaves are, because oak leaves would be a little bit more of the yellow. Now, if you had a maple leaf, it might look more like this, but I mean, I'm okay with taking a little bit of creative license. Okay. Now I want to kind of blend it together a little bit, but you don't want to blend these too much with these colors because you can end up with just like a mud color if you're not careful. Okay, so I blend kind of the edges, but then leave, you know, I don't kind of go over the whole thing, if that makes sense, right? Because if you really blend too much, you're gonna get that mud color, which isn't too bad for, you know, brown leaves, because, you know, leaves can get like that, but I mean, you want it to blend, but you don't want it to be too much. Okay, I'm trying not to get too much water because then it won't dry very fast. Okay, now let's do what I did for the acorns. As you can see, I did the darker color on these tops. And then I did the more brown color underneath on the bottom part. Although I'll show you the one where I didn't do it quite as much. And I'm doing, again, the areas that it's showing where the, you know, these lines are. That's what I'm doing darker, and I'm pushing the colored pencil a little bit more, and I'm going to go back and kind of fill in lighter. And I'm not kind of going all the way to the edge because you want to be able to push some of that color. You know, it's gonna spill out a little bit. So, okay. So I'm doing the light brown first. Okay, and then the darker brown. Okay. Okay, I'm going to let that dry a second and then put these up. Okay, I'm just going to use this since I got it right here. And then, so I'm popping up the sentiment. Now you may or may not, actually, did I, on this one? I did pop it up a bit on this one. You may or may not want to pop it up because you've already got this popped up. It depends if you're going to send it through the mail or not. All right, because now there's kind of two layers of foam, but okay. And so for the, let me just talk about this while this is drying. All I did was take a piece of, this one I left at 4 1/4 by 5 1/2, but I think I would cut it at 4 by 5 1/4 like the other ones. And then I just used a green, an orange, and a brown. It's ink blend. That's what I did here, green, orange, and brown. I didn't use this green on here. I actually used Close to My Heart Fern, and then I just cut it out. Okay, so it's the same as I did on here. Okay, so let's just cut this out, and then we will be done. did I do with the washi tape? Okay, here it is. Okay. Okay. And run it through. Seems okay. It might have moved a little bit, but it's fine. Yeah, see the bottom moved a little bit, but that's okay. So I'm just going to tape this part down, and I will put a couple of dots here. Here we go. Just to hold this part up, but the part that's going to be over the here, I'm just going to add adhesive to. Okay, this is still kind of wet, so there we go. Did I take the back? I don't think I took the backing off of these. Okay, and there we go. So we made 2 ways. I didn't have time to do the third, but you get the point of these. So I really recommend this die set. It's called Amber Autumn. The Amber Autumn set is so beautiful. It's got this die, which I think is the showstopper. And then it does have the dies to cut out the stamped images, the pumpkins and the acorns. So I really love them. Okay, so that's it for this week. Next week, I am doing, let's see. I'm doing the Sweet and Spooky treat set. This is something you don't want to miss. If your kids have to give treats at school to their friends, or if you just have a few kids in your neighborhood that come to the door, then you could use something like this for them and fill it with little treats. These are so cute, and it's a kit, so it's everything you need. I mean, look at how, oh, I can see it's like metallic. I didn't realize that those ghosts in that are metallic. So anyway, this is what we're making next week. Okay. So I hope that you learned something. And I really recommend this set. These pumpkins are so beautiful. Look how beautiful those are. And this gold metallic, I really recommend this paper. It's called Earthen Tone Metallics. I will drop the resource on the page with all of these products in them. Okay? Okay, I'll see you next week for the spooky, sweet and spooky treat bags. Bye.